So, good evening and welcome to our fourth and final Mary Talk of our ninth season. My name is Philip Duggins. I am with the Alumni Engagement Office here at Mary Washington, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's event. We are excited to host a sizable audience of over 100 for tonight's presentation, which includes alumni, students, parents, and friends from across the country and beyond. As with past lectures, there will be time after the presentation for our guests to answer any questions you might have. Feel free to ask a question by clicking on the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen and submitting there, or you can vote for other submitted questions to help them rise to the top of the list. At this time, I'd like to introduce Marisa Day, class of 2005. Marisa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tracy Stonestreet, a writer, curator, and educator. Dr. Stonestreet was born in Bonn, Germany, to American parents and spent most of her childhood in Ohio and North Carolina. She attended North Carolina State University's College of Design as a Da Vinci Scholar, earning a dual bachelor's degree in history and art. As an undergraduate, she founded the Fish Market, a student-run gallery for the College of Design. After graduating, she opened Bonded Llama, a gallery and studio space in Raleigh, and worked with Empire Properties, a historic redevelopment firm. She went on to earn an MFA in studio art from Pratt Institute and UNC Chapel Hill, and later completed a doctorate in media, art, and text at Virginia Commonwealth University. Dr. Stonestreet has served as an assistant professor of studio art at Hampton University and of contemporary art and performance at VCU Qatar. In 2023, she joined the University of Mary Washington as director of galleries. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Tracy Stonestreet, who will be speaking with us tonight about curating art and developing art programming here at Mary Washington.
Thank you so much, Marisa, and thanks everyone for joining. I'm honored to be invited to give a Mary Talk, and thanks so much, Philip, for organizing and wrangling all of our amazing audience and alumni. Again, as you know, I'm Dr. Tracy Stonestreet. I'm the Director of Galleries at University of Mary Washington, and in case you weren't sure what that meant, we do have two galleries on campus at Mary Washington. We have the Ritterhoff Martin Gallery, which is a standalone structure built in the early 90s. You can see it here on the left. It's sort of a Jeffersonian building. We are nestled in between Siekebeck Hall and Melchers and DuPont, sort of the art buildings complex. And then within DuPont, we have a gallery called DuPont Gallery. Now, anyone who graduated from Mary Washington before 1992, this would have been the only gallery for you on campus. DuPont Gallery served as the sole university gallery from the 1950s through the 90s, and it had many iterations over that time period. So what you're seeing in this image is its current state. And we'll talk more about that development in just a second. I feel really honored that I get this platform to share about the galleries with such a wide audience. One of the things that I've really enjoyed in my year and a half or almost 2 years at Mary Washington is the sense of community that we have, not only across campus and across Fredericksburg, but also across time. I keep meeting amazing alumni who have really rich stories of their time on campus, their time engaging with Mary Washington since leaving school. And so I wanted to make sure that we took the time tonight to slow down, talk about the history of the galleries, how they've come to be what they are. And so that's my first chapter here. You're looking at my timeline of tonight's talk. So we're going to start with a little bit of a history, and then we're going to go into the core of the work that I do in the galleries for the students and for the community and alumni. We work with the collection, we focus on education, and we build community. So we're going to talk about those three tenets of our mission. And then if we have time, if I don't ramble too much, we are going to have time at the end to talk about the next few years in the galleries and what my growth mindset is for that space. Okay, and I can't see you, and I'm an educator, so I'm used to seeing some reassuring eye contact with folks, but I'm just going to believe that you're all with me and I'm making sense. And then I'm excited to take your questions at the end. All right, so we're going to start with a brief history of the galleries. And really, that history starts with the University Art Collection. Our very first acquisition, which is, bringing art into the ownership of the university, happened in 1942 when Mary Washington College acquired three large original marbles from the late 19th century. Now, those of you who stayed in dorms on campus, you may remember that there are marbles placed in the foyers of many of those dorms. Those are all owned by the university galleries. In 1949, we acquired our first painting from the National Academy of Design. It was a gift to the college. It was a large landscape painting. And then we had this really beautiful decade of growth from 1956 to 1965 when Mary Washington College organized annual exhibitions of modern art from dealers in New York City. They had a program where they would buy at least one piece from each of those shows, and 36 pieces were purchased over the course of that decade of exhibitions, and that was taking place in sort of the very early form of DuPont Gallery. Those 36 pieces, along with the marbles and the landscape painting, became the core of the university collection. So in 1983, the university hired its first official director for the DuPont Gallery, and that was Joe DeBella. Now, those of you who took art classes while you were in school, you may remember DeBella as a beloved art faculty. He wore many hats, both literally and figuratively, when he was at Mary Washington. So when DeBella became the director of the DuPont Gallery, the first exhibitions that he held in that space, one was a retrospective memorial exhibition for another faculty member, Dorothy Van Winkle. And the second was a group exhibition of alumni. I find it really beautiful that those were the two exhibitions organized under the new directorship of the exhibitions, because those are two things that we still hold really dear, which is championing the work of our faculty and championing the work of our alumni. And I'll talk more about that when I get into the exhibitions that we do. So then, building a relationship with the community, Joe met Phyllis Ritterhoff Martin, who was a California painter and artist who had recently or who had moved to the Fredericksburg area. And in 1992, with generous funds from Phyllis Ritterhoff Martin, they were able to open the Ritterhoff Martin Gallery. And you can see Phyllis with her family in this amazing image on the left of them breaking ground where Ritterhoff Martin Gallery now stands. So this gallery space, if you haven't been, I highly recommend you come. It's really beautiful, and it is sort of a jewel within the main campus of UMW. It has arched windows, has a lot of natural light. It's a really beautiful space. And within the building, we have a 1,500 square foot exhibition gallery. We have offices for myself and the exhibition coordinator, Shannon Petska. And we also have our collections room, which I'll show you some very messy images of in a little bit. And the first exhibition in that space was of Phyllis Ritterhoff Martin's own collection of paintings and drawings. UMW is very lucky to become the owners of most of that work. So we have a large collection of Phyllis's work that we rotate through either collection exhibitions or as part of our collection connection, which is when we put work up in our lobbies. And then in 1995, DuPont Gallery was renovated into one large room. In gallery speak, we'd call it a white cube. So it's just one big white rectangle. And it has contemporary lighting. It's a professional gallery space. What's really lovely about the two galleries that we have at UMW is that students and community members get to engage with even with just in those two galleries, sort of the breadth of what the art world has to offer for artists. We have the White Cube contemporary space in DuPont Gallery, and we have the more museum feel of the Jeffersonian architecture of Ritterhoff Martin. One of the things that was developed since DeBella got the Ritterhoff Martin Gallery open was this series of sort of legacy programming. And I have worked really hard to honor this legacy, to bring some of these programs back in the 2 years that I've been at Mary Washington. So those programmings, that includes the Mid-Atlantic New Painting Biennial. This was started in 1997. It happens almost every other year, but it took a long hiatus for COVID and for some restructuring. We brought that back in the fall. It was an incredible exhibition that brought artists from New York to North Carolina into our space and really built out our community in that way. Um, this image, I love this image. For those of you that were art students, you can see Carol Garman really animatedly speaking to a crowd here in the middle of the image. We also have the Origins series, which is our annual exhibition for alumni. Here in the upper right, you see Taylor White, who's class of 2017, with a wall of drawings that he developed for his Origins series exhibition. And then we also have an annual student art exhibition that takes place once a year. It's actually happening right now in DuPont Gallery. So if you have a chance to go by campus and check that out, I think it's an incredibly impressive exhibition of 42 works by current students. So we're building off this history. We're trying to make sure that we're keeping the very strong foundation that we have in the gallery going into the future. Okay, so that's my very short background on the history of the galleries. And that moves us into really the core of what I want to share with you all tonight, which is this trifecta of work that I do. This is all coming from our mission statement. The University of Mary Washington Galleries, comprised of Ritterhoff Martin Gallery and DuPont Gallery, are dedicated to advancing the educational goals of the university through the collection, preservation, exhibition, and interpretation of works of art. We do that by hosting 3 to 4 rotating exhibitions per semester. And we showcase works by national and international artists, as well as students and faculty. So we protect the collection, we display the collection, and then we really focus on the education of the students who are at Mary Washington. And then we build community across the region, across time through our alumni outreach, and again, across campus. So I'm going to go through each of these with more detail. So talking about the collection, we now have grown from that early, having about 40 works of art to now we have over 6,000 works of art that are owned by University of Mary Washington. These artworks are displayed across the main campus and at Dahlgren. You will find them in dean's offices, in the president's office, in public areas, and hopefully most of them that you find you can easily identify because they all have an object label next to them that identifies them as work that's owned by the university and gives you some context about who made it. So the images that you see on here are just some of the many highlights from our collection. You have, going from left to right, Alfred Levitt. This is one of many works we have by Levitt, who left us a very large collection of his own work, as well as an endowment to keep the galleries going, especially to fund and support emerging artists. The next work here is Milton Avery. Milton Avery is a celebrated modernist painter. This was the first purchase award that was made in that very first exhibition in 1956. Then we have Marc Chagall, we have a Picasso not seen here, we have Andy Warhol, and this collection continues to be alive. It continues to grow as we either receive work as donations or we acquire work through purchase awards. 2 of our most significant artists in our collection both have very strong ties to Mary Washington. And so I wanted to make sure that I slowed down and really highlighted them. The first, of course, is Phyllis Ritterhoff Martin, who you can see here in a self-portrait. Ritterhoff Martin, again, she was practicing in California. She had a very strong body of figurative painting. And we are very lucky to have many of not only her finished paintings, but also a lot of her sketches. She was an avid figure drawing instructor and also did a lot of her own work. And so you can see in our body of work by Ritterhoff Martin the progression of an artist over time, but also the way that she engaged in the ideation of her own practice. And then the other person that I want to highlight is Margaret Sutton. Margaret Sutton is an alumna of Mary Washington College. When Sutton graduated with an art degree from Mary Washington, she moved to New York City and befriended Alfred Levitt. They ended up having a lifelong, very close friendship. And at the time of Sutton's passing, Leavitt wanted to honor that friendship and honor Margaret by giving a very large gift of her work to Mary Washington College. And so that then we ended up getting a lot of Alfred Leavitt's work as well during that time. So we have a very strong collection of Margaret Sutton's watercolors, her abstract drawings and paintings, and you will see many of Sutton's work around campus as well. Okay, we celebrate our collection by obviously by keeping it safe, but also by exhibiting it and sharing it with our community. So these are two examples of collection exhibitions that we have had over the last few years. Leavitt by the Sea was a collection of Alfred Leavitt's drawings that his paintings that he completed in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And this was actually completely organized by my art history class that is a lab in museum studies, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And the other exhibition on display here is raw and unfinished works from UMW's permanent collection, and these were all sketches or unfinished works by some of our prominent artists. And this, please forgive the messiness of these images. This is our collections room. You can see this is a very lively space. We work in this space every day with our interns, with my lab students, as well as just doing our own professional work in the space. You can see there's vertical storage here that holds the work that remains framed, as well as archival boxes and several flat files so that we can store lots of work safely horizontally. So this is where the magic happens. It is very messy, and I apologize for the images, but it just shows that it's a well-used and loved workspace. The students also really love to be back here. So we get a lot of close detail and a lot of one-on-one instruction on things like framing, mounting, handling, and caring for art. Okay, how am I doing on time? I think I'm doing okay. So I'm going to move us to the next tenet of the mission, which is education. This, of course, we are a university gallery system. This is our primary objective, is to help instruct and educate the students of Mary Washington. I see this as threefold. I educate students, and I see the galleries as educating students through our exhibition programming, through experiences that we give students through things like internships and labs, and also through additional levels of engagement that we orchestrate for the students to have. Exhibitions are an incredibly important part of a liberal arts education. It is exposing students not only to what it means to be in a gallery space, be in a museum space, understand that level of cultural engagement, but also to expose them to ideas and notions of creativity from people from all over the world, different walks of life, bringing different perspectives, creating opportunities for dialogue, opportunities for discussion and deep thought about the works, not only the works that are on display, but also sort of the heavier concepts that might come with them. So this is an image from an opening reception of Carol Garman's Origins show. Carol co-curated an exhibition with Shanna Aberle that celebrated 25 years of art education, and so it at UMW, and so it brought in 25 artists who had all attended or been taught by Carol Garman. This is another image from an opening. This is Parc des Sung, which was curated by our art history professor, Dr. Susie Kim. The experience of having galleries on campus goes beyond just the exhibition opening. It also allows students to slowly look and engage at work. It allows students to maybe visit with a class, want to spend more time with the work, and have the ability to come and sit. We always have extra materials on hand if people want deeper engagement, if they want to do further research. We are also always on hand to have those conversations with students and point them in directions for additional learning if they so choose. The exhibitions that we've had in just the time that I've been here have run the gamut of materials and stylistic choices. These are just some of the posters of the exhibitions that we've done. We do about 8 exhibitions a year, not including the senior showcase. And I want to slow down for just a second and focus on two that are, I think, not only significant in their own right, but indicative of the type of programming that I'm hoping to continue to do while at Mary Washington. So the first exhibition is the Double Infinity of Jumpstar Simmering. This is a multi-level project that engages with UMW actually across time and space. So George Ferrundi is a New York-based artist who, over the past almost decade, has been working with different groups of people, entering different cities and communities, and creating these large-scale, interactive, socially engaged uh, performance projects. I think it was 2017 or 2018, she actually came to Fredericksburg and was embedded in Seekebeck Hall as her studio while it was transitioning from the old dining hall into the education building that it now is. They gave George one of the areas. And I'm hopeful that some of the folks on this call were able to participate with George in that time period. She invited community members in. She taught them how to make these large scale Japanese lanterns. And then all of these kind of large lantern structures were part of this larger parade that many UMW faculty and community members were supposed to be a part of. That's a longer story, but that's the subtext for George Ferrundi working with Fredericksburg artists. Now, George was very close with Carol Garman, who is our sculpture professor emerita. And so I think one of the very first days I was at Mary Washington, Carol wanted to talk to me about George and wanted me to see her work. I was immediately struck by this piece that George did with a group in Vienna, Austria. This was a COVID-based project. George was set uh, to go to Vienna and do sort of the same kind of community-driven art project, but lockdown happened and they had to shift everything to be virtual. So one of the things they did, one of the things that came out of that virtual relationship was this rope that was made by people all around the world over Zoom. They would have a Zoom call. They would instruct how to braid and make rope from materials that you find in your own home. Among other things, they also did choreography together. They learned how to sing a song in multiple languages. There were all of these elements that were tied together into the single project. At the end of the project, the people from around the world who had participated all mailed their chunks of rope to Vienna, and the artists wove them together into a single long strand. And that's what you see here installed in Ritterhoff Martin Gallery. This is significant for so many reasons, one of them being that this was never seen by George in real life until it was installed in Ritterhoff Martin Gallery this past winter. The platform that was made by our professor of woodworking, Larry Hinkle, and it was designed to withstand the weight of many humans. So the whole rope, in and of itself an art object, became the set or the stage for further iterations, for further performances. And George spent a month with my students in my performance art history class with a cohort of them to choreograph and create the next part of this project. So it continued to evolve and live in the space. And so we had, back in March, we had a performance that was hybrid across Zoom for the performers in Vienna, Austria to be there, and also for the students of Mary Washington to perform on this stage that was built in the middle of the gallery. There's a lot more to say on this. I really think this project is great, but for the sake of time, I want to move on. The other exhibition I want to showcase is Self-Adjacent. This exhibition is currently on display, and it will be until whenever Alumni Weekend is. I think it's the first weekend in June, and that's going to be the capstone of this exhibition. Self-Adjacent is a traveling exhibition that is all about caretaking and family dynamics. This is an exhibition that I actually co-curated with Richmond-based curator and artist Sarah Irvin. This exhibition has traveled across the United States. It actually started in Virginia, in Richmond. It traveled to a gallery in Manhattan. It traveled to the Kennedy Museum in Ohio. And now, 2 years later, it's returning to Virginia as its sort of farewell iteration at University of Mary Washington. This show incorporates all the different elements of art that are produced at Mary Washington. We have printmaking, photography, sculpture, video, performance, and on and on. This show also, I have found over the last week that it has been open, has been resonant with students for multiple levels. I had this phenomenal conversation with my performance art history class today about the way that they are responding to the work as children, but also as adults. And so they're, the most of the students that I'm teaching are at this moment in their lives where they can understand the position of both sides of that relationship. And it's been really wonderful to hear the way they are thinking through and articulating these concepts. Okay. So the next element of education as a tenet of our mission is experience, the experiences that we are offering, the additional educational opportunities we provide students. These opportunities help them gain knowledge and professional experience. We offer internships every semester. We typically have 4 to 6 interns working at a time. We also have, I teach the Art Museum Studies Lab. This is a This is a course that's offered as part of the Museum Studies minor, but it's also open for all students across the university who want to get really hands-on experience putting an exhibition together. The 317 class, the Art Museum Studies Lab, operates as a small museum staff. It's about 15 students, everyone from historic preservation, studio art, art history, communications, classics. I've had science majors. They all come together and they realize how their skills and their knowledge base fit into a collaborative team situation that produces an exhibition. They curate the exhibition, they write all the text for it, they literally install it, they learn how to hang artwork, they learn how to use a drill. One of my favorite moments with both interns and my lab students is very slowly teaching them how to use a power drill. And it may seem simple, but if you think about it, that is a skill, regardless of what career you go into, that is always going to be helpful and necessary. So we have a really good time with our interns. We have a really good time with the lab students. And I do think that they gain a lot from these very close and direct experiences in the gallery setting. And then the final component of education, of course, is engagement. We have at least one form of additional engagement per exhibition. These could be curator talks. These could be roundtables with artists. This could be having artists come back into the gallery space and engage with their artworks in performative ways. Just in the past week, we had Courtney Kessel and Chloe Clevenger come back into the gallery space for Self-Adjacent and perform their piece in Balance With. It's an incredible experience for our students to participate in this and witness this internationally successful and renowned work of performance art. We also, I have been curating the Visiting Artists and Speaker series for the Department of Studio Art and Art History. This brings 3 to 4 professional artists, art historians, and curators to campus every semester so that students and community members can continue to expand their understanding and their awareness of the art world. Okay. These are images from Courtney Kessel and Chloe Clevenger's performance. You can see the students and faculty are sitting in the gallery space. They have the tripod ready to record. This is a performance. If you haven't gone into the gallery yet, there's a documentation that plays on this monitor of the performance. There's a seesaw here. The mother and daughter duo balance objects across the seesaw in a way that reflects the evolving relationships between parent and child and the amount of stuff that is required to either maintain that relationship, things like car seats and bicycles and bike helmets when she was younger, have now evolved into things like laptops and houseplants and hand-me-down picture frames and things that represent their relationship but are no longer needed to keep a child alive. Okay. The third element of our mission is community. And this is where we really want to broaden our audience as widely as we can. I try to build community through at least one community event per exhibition. All of those things that I just talked about for student engagement, those are also true for community engagement. Every event we have is open to the public. So when we bring in artists for performance or for a lecture, I would love to see many of you in the audience. I would love to increase the amount of community engagement we have for those. We also host school tours. We have elder study tours for every exhibition. And we also, will be our second year hosting the Congressional Art Exhibition for District 7. So in all these ways, we are trying to be a resource for art. We're trying to be a landmark in the Fredericksburg area for people to come and see art that may be coming either from Fredericksburg itself, celebrating the students, alumni, and faculty of UMW, or coming from the broader world in. I also want to build community through regional exhibitions. I'm actively building bridges with other institutions across Virginia and across the Mid-Atlantic region. With the exhibition, the Mid-Atlantic New Painting Biennial, we invited artists. We had 70 artists, again, from New York down to North Carolina, and many of them came to the opening. And that's such a great opportunity to have conversations, build relationships. We were able to connect some of the painters to our painting professor, Ash Laughlin, who will have them, they could come back and they could do studio visits, they could talk to the students. These are the types of relationships that are mutually beneficial. And then we also work with a juror at least twice a year, once for the Mid-Atlantic New Painting and once for the annual Student Art Exhibition. And these jurors, like you see here on the right, this is Heather Hakimzadeh. She's the chief curator at the Virginia MoCA down in Virginia Beach. They're bringing their expertise and they're sharing that with our community and our students. But also what they're bringing back with them when Heather goes back to Virginia Beach is a knowledge of what we're doing here. And so we're just sort of broadening our network and the regional awareness of what we can do. Okay, I think I did it very quickly, and I'm so sorry if I was talking fast, but I wanted to make sure that I have time to go through the next phase of what the UMW galleries can be. So that's my final growth chapter, and I think I have time. Okay, the big news on the growth side of things is that the newly formed School of the Arts, which will be the Department of Music, Department of Theater and Dance, the Department of Studio Art, and Historic Preservation, are forming a School of the Arts. The gallery, of course, will be part of that school. The building complex of Melchers, DuPont, and the Music Building, these are all getting a renovation. I'm sure some of you have already been made aware of this, and the galleries are a big part of that. And I'm so excited to see this next phase, this next face of our gallery. If you can position yourself in the lobby of DuPont Hall, let's say you went in to buy a theater ticket or you went in to see a show in DuPont, and there's the round table in the middle that always has that beautiful arrangement from the Department of Theater. This is where you're standing in this renovation mock-up. This is where we stand right now with the plan. As you're standing in DuPont's foyer, you can see that they've converted that into a mezzanine. So that'll be open space, and there will be student display spaces around the mezzanine. You can also see that DuPont Gallery is now visible from the outside. We are going to have a glass front here, which I'm so thankful for. I think that's going to be really beautiful and increase our foot traffic as people get engaged and want to come in. And then, bear with me, as you walk down the hall, y'all, I'm so excited about this. We're getting a whole third gallery. So here you have the new fancy entrance to DuPont Gallery, double doors going in, and right across the hall, you have a new student gallery. This is going to be a little bit of what I affectionately call a fishbowl. It's going to have an entirely glass front, and then it'll be a small space designed at the same professional level as DuPont Gallery, dedicated to the continuous display of student work. It's also going to be a wonderful opportunity for experimentation for students who perhaps want to really focus on curatorial practice. They can do that type of experimentation on a smaller scale more often in the student gallery. I'm very excited about this. And then I have one shot on the inside of DuPont Gallery. You can see they have taken out the drop ceiling. They're going to raise the ceiling back up, and then they're gonna update the lighting and the floor and the walls. So this is very exciting. We're looking at most likely a 2028 timeline for this. And my goals for that new space and the time that's going to get us there is to increase community involvement and attendance and engagement in events. I don't think we need to wait for the new building for that. I think that we have so many amazing things that are happening in the Department of Studio Art, in art history, across the School of the Arts. I think this is a great time now to get more involved and start attending events. So I'd love to see more community involvement, more attendance at those events. I want to increase our regional recognition, which will also increase attendance at exhibitions. And I want to host traveling exhibitions from regional and national institutions. I think that really fits in with our mission of bringing the art world in as an educational resource for our students. And so that's one of the other things that I'm really going to try to work on in the next few years. So these are my goals for before, during, and after the renovation, so that by the time we have these new beautiful galleries over in DuPont, we have the energy and the audience and the continuum of all of this great tradition that we have going to really honor that new space. Okay, hold on. So I will end with just a sneak preview of our 25-26 gallery calendar. We are going to start the year with Erica Steerley. She is a participatory painter. I'm not going to tell you more. It's going to be really fun. And then we have David Carlson and Chi Kung. They're both Arlington artists. They'll have a two-person show in Ritterhoff Martin in the fall. Then in November, we'll have the Patawamek Indian Tribe of Virginia in Ritterhoff Martin Gallery. We will have the annual student art exhibition at that same time in DuPont Gallery. Next winter, we'll have Carolyn Marks Johnson. Carolyn is a judge in Texas. She makes incredible bronze collars that represent the work that women have done to form this great nation. And then we will end the year next year with a recent acquisitions exhibition of the Bowman collection. Barbara and Russell Bowman. Barbara is an alum, class of 69, and they both live in Chicago. They have an incredible art collection, and they have been incredibly generous with sharing that with the UMW community and with the galleries. So we're going to, with the help of my Museum Studies Lab, put together an incredible exhibition of that work and share it with everybody. Okay. That was a lot, and I talked quickly, and I apologize. But thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for your interest in the galleries. Please come by and see me. We're open Wednesday through Sunday, 10 to 4 p.m. And then you can learn more about everything and sign up for our newsletter at umwgalleries.org. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that presentation. Now is a great time for folks. If you have questions, please go to the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen, and then go ahead and type your question in there, and we will go ahead then and ask Dr. Stonestreet about your questions. So now is a great time to do that. So may I ask a question to get things started?
Sure.
Where does Belmont fit in to this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Belmont is the Gary Melcher's house. That is actually under university museums. So we are in communication with each other. I think there may be some more partnerships in the future. I've been talking to Susan. Their new curator came on at the same time as I did. And so we've been talking about how we might be able to have some partnerships across the two sites. But we're not the same organization.
Well, I'll say Marianne and Jack, instead of asking a question, they say, "Thank you, Dr. Stonestreet. You're such an asset to UMW." So,
Thank you, Marianne and Jack. I really appreciate that.
So, but yeah, please, if you do have questions, go ahead and enter those into the Q&A so that we can get those answered. I know somebody's got to have some questions.
Philip, I can ask you a question.
Sure, absolutely.
When you were a student, did you go to the galleries?
I did not.
Mm.
Sorry.
What do you think would have driven you there?
I don't. I. That's
I
a
think
hard
that's
question.
I think that's a great question I have for alumni on the call. That's one of the things that, I've only been at Mary Washington. This is only my second year, and so I'm still learning how to get people in the door, like what's going to make them excited. And the art students are excited and they're coming, but how do I reach those who might not already be predisposed to wanting to come?
Oh, That's a hard question. I will say Jeffrey and Victoria Sands, very informative. I was an art history major just before MWC students started working on cataloging Gary Melcher's collection at Belmont.
Awesome.
And then here's an anonymous question. What are your favorite pieces in the collection?
Hmm. That's a really good question. Okay, let me think about it. It's hard not to love the Andy Warhol flowers. It's just they're so poppy and flat. So I really like that piece. I do love, let me think about this. We have a recent acquisition. This is one of the things that we received from the Bowman family. That is a portfolio of 76 prints, and they are all different types of prints. Some of them are screen print, some of them are risographs, and they're all in one box. So they come all together, and inside it is a vinyl record that's never been played. And I keep meaning to get a record player to the gallery so that we can experience what the record is inside this art project. But that's one of my favorites. That project also gets a lot of love. So we had the printmaking class come in, they set up tables, everyone was wearing white gloves, and we went through the entire portfolio of 76 pieces and looked at them carefully, how they were made, the stylistic choices that the artists had made. This was from the 1970s. Um, we didn't get to play the record though. Anybody has a record player they want to drop off, let me know.
Next question. Can you share more about the Melcher's Purchase Award?
Yeah, great question. So it's the Melchers Gray Purchase Award. It's two endowments that were paired together. And every year for the annual student art exhibition, we have a small amount of money that we can purchase a student artwork to add to the collection. So the Melchers Gray Purchase Award has been going on now for a while. We have a strong collection of work under that title. I believe we have close to 30 artworks that have been Melchers Gray Purchase Award winners. And they run the gamut of the type of work that students are producing. Some of them are photographs, we have videos, we have sculpture, we have let me think about this. This past year, we purchased a work by Junior Lily Price. It's a large painting of legs. It's really good. Anyway, it's a really fun program that we have. I hope that answered your question.
Okay. Next question. Do you have any plans to connect with the many local galleries in downtown Fredericksburg?
Yes. So when I first started, there was talk of getting some conversations together. One of the things that we are a little outside of, unfortunately, is the First Friday circuit. I think that the First Friday circuit in Fredericksburg is really strong and very active. And it's a really great, tight community that people can walk around on Friday nights for the First Friday activities. And we're just too far off that to participate in that exact night. But I would love to build more relationships with specific people.
And then Heather asked, I was part of the ribbon cutting of the Ritterhoff Martin Gallery. She was a wonderful woman. How
Oh,
many students can come through on a field trip? I'm at Hugh Mercer and would love to bring some classes.
Heather, I would love for you to bring classes. I think 50 is our max. We can get 50 people in at a time. But I will say that I'm a hosting students from a school on May 9th, and their group is larger than that, but we've just done some coordination with other programs on campus so that 50 come in to meet at a time and they rotate. But I mean, we've also done groups as small as five. So, whatever.
Then I am so glad UMW offers museum studies, lab course, historic preservation, and curatorial experience for students. Weren't offered when I attended Mary Washington College in 1975. Okay. And then this is someone you probably know, Carol Garment.
Hi,
UMW
Carol.
is so positioned to celebrate the heart of the liberal arts experience, art. We are so fortunate to have such great leadership in the School of Arts and can't say enough about Tracy Stonestreet. Do you see differences between UMW students and other institutions you have been affiliated with?
Oh, Carol, that's a really good question. Also, thank you. And I wish you could have co-taught this talk with me tonight. I feel like you have so many good stories and insights. Um, so before coming here, I was at VCU Qatar. VCU Qatar has a very specific audience, right? It's in a Gulf state. Most of the students are Qatari. Uh, Before I was at VCU Qatar, I was at VCU in Richmond, and that does have a little bit of a different climate, different types of students that are there. And I think it has to do with what the students, I don't know, I'm making assumptions, but it's sort of like what the students want from their education. It's like apples and oranges. You have a very large school in VCU that has a portfolio review. So there's a lot of stress just to get into that art program. At UMW, you're offering a small liberal arts program, which is just a different education, and there's not a portfolio review to get into studio art, and yet the talent is the same, right? The students are equally involved, they're equally passionate, they're producing great work across those differences, and I think it just comes down to what the students were looking for when they were choosing their programs. I love UMW students. I would say I was talking to Marisa about this. I find UMW students to be incredibly earnest and thoughtful and engaged. There's not a lot of I don't know what the word is that I'm looking here, but there's not a lot of too cool for it, right? Like they're willing to have conversations with me and they're willing to actually get in there and learn about something without letting any biases sort of get in their way. I hope that answered your question, Carol.
Next question. I'm excited about the growth opportunities you have shared. Do you have any ideas for an actual plan to increase community involvement and the local art community?
I do. Thank you. That's a great question. So, one of the things that we did this year was we hired a marketing manager that she is responsible for the school or the Department of Music and the Department of Studio Art. And she also works with me at the gallery. So, she and I are working together to make sure that we have more communication pushed out into the community. We're going to be producing a year preview mailer that's going to go out so that people can, have something that they keep on their desk or on their fridge all year long. It has our full calendar. It can get people excited about what's coming up. And those alumni who might be further away or those friends of the gallery who are further away, if there's an exhibition that's piquing their interest, they would be able to plan a trip in advance. And then, so that's one major form is just increased communication. I think also building those relationships almost on a one-to-one level. If I go down and form relationships with gallery owners in downtown Fredericksburg, it would be reciprocal. They'd want to come see what I was talking about, right? So it's also just building out a network.
And the comment beyond that question was also, I love your glasses.
Oh gosh, thank you. I'm always a little nervous to wear them because they're so reflective, but I got to see.
Okay. Are there other questions? Oh, here we go. Do you promote the use of pieces from the collection outside the galleries?
That's a great question. So we do share our collection across campus, but we are not currently loaning them off campus, and that is an issue of insurance. Um, I don't think that's a completely closed door, but our current policy is not to seek out loans.
Other questions? We've gotten to the end that have been asked so far, so now's a chance to ask away. Are there any challenges with, I mean, obviously we've heard stories about museums that have to keep a certain humidity and things like that. So, what are some of the challenges in keeping the pieces that UMW has uh, in shape so
Yeah.
they'll last for a long time?
It's a great question, and we have all those same challenges. We're in Virginia. We're in central Virginia, right? So we have humidity issues. We have dehumidifiers in all of our spaces. We have temperature regulation devices that track humidity and temperature fluctuations. One of the things you don't want is to have a very quick adjustment in either of those things. We also, again, we're in Fredericksburg, right? So our summers can get really hot. We have to make sure that we're keeping all of our systems going. And we don't run into any temperature or humidity fluctuations. So that's our main thing. But one of the other things I didn't mention in the renovation is we do have two storage rooms in the basement of DuPont, and those are also getting renovated. So I have high hopes for some state-of-the-art additional storage coming up.
Right.
Philip,
Marisa, did you have a question?
I do. Tracy, I have a question. So I'm an alumni of Mary Washington and I love the galleries. I was just there this weekend with my family. And I'm just wondering, what can alumni near and far do for UMW galleries? How can we support the work that you're doing so that you can continue to bring amazing exhibitions to the gallery spaces and keep working with students? What are some goals for alumni? Like, what can we do to support you?
Oh, Marisa, that's such a sweet question. Thank you. Well, I immediately think of two answers, and I'm sure there's many more, and you all are creative and would be probably be able to think of better options. But one thing is communication. I think continuing to share, if social media, sharing on social media is very helpful, but also sharing word of mouth, coming by when you're in town. We'd love to meet you, especially those of you on the call who have worked in, you might not have majored in it, but you've worked in museums, or you were an art history major, class of 71. We would love for you to come talk to our students about your experience. So sharing your own experiences. And then we do have a Friends of the Gallery fund. That fund, if anyone makes small donations to the gallery or large donations to the gallery, they go into our Friends of the Gallery account, and we can make improvements on the gallery using that account. We can also purchase works from the Mid-Atlantic New Painting Biennial using that account. So actual financial gifts are, of course, always helpful. Yeah, thanks, Marisa.
Carolyn, this is good news. Carolyn says, I have a turntable that I would like to donate.
Yes.
I will be in touch with you tomorrow.
Oh, Carolyn, I love it. Thank you. I'm so excited. You're going to have to come by and we can listen to whatever is on that record together.
And then Marianne and Jack, you're doing a wonderful job with community involvement. Dr. Stonestreet, Mary Washington Elder Study has greatly benefited from your tours.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it and all the work you do to make that happen.
Last chance for questions before we wrap up. All right, not seeing any. Well, thank you, Dr. Stonestreet, for joining us this evening. I'd also like to thank Mark Simpkins from Events AV, who helped facilitate the virtual logistics of tonight's program. And thanks again to our viewers at home for joining us and being a part of the conversation. Remember that this presentation will be available for viewing on the UMW YouTube channel by this time next week. There you can watch this program and browse the full catalog of Mary Talks. Our 10th season of Mary Talks will kick off in the fall. Keep an eye out for more information for our next presentation. We look forward to seeing you then, if not earlier. Thank you and good night.